What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're celebrating 150,000 subscribers. As you will notice right away, this is going to be a little bit of a different video than the regular cartoons, and this is something that I've been meaning to make for a little while now, but I've been busy actually making cartoons, so this has been delayed and delayed. But I think it was time to take a little bit of a break from that and say thank you to all of you who have subscribed. I thought it would be fun for every one of my subscribers to make a little Nessie. So you see them right here animating on the screen. But then I realized to make 150,000 it was going to be a little bit of a task, make them animate like this. So instead I'm opening up this big stream of Nessies and just letting them drop and fill the entire screen. Now as we wait for that, I thought it would be fun to maybe take a few questions that you guys have been sending over the last few months. I actually received a ton of questions, like 400 or 500 of them. So I'm definitely not going to be able to answer all of them. I did notice that a bunch of them were repeat. They mainly fell into the categories of what is it like to be an animator, how is it at Respawn, and questions about the channel. So they will mainly fall into these three categories. I don't want to make this video super long, and I do hope that you are entertained by the visuals. So here we go, let's start with question number 1. Why does it take you so long to upload a video? This is by far the question that I get asked the most, so I will answer this one first. And the reality is very simple. I am not a YouTuber full-time. I just like to make these little cartoons on my spare time and I upload them whenever I have the time for it. I work at Respawn Entertainment as a full-time animator, and that takes most of my day. So at the end of the day, when I come home and I want to spend time with my family, just relax, I really have to think if I want to sit down on the computer again and do more animation, even though I've been doing that already for 8 or 9 hours. So that plus the fact that animation overall takes a long time to make just makes it so that the production of these videos is slow. I can't imagine that I could ever have like a daily upload schedule or multiple videos like I see in some channels. But what I can tell you is that when I do create a cartoon, I am putting my best effort into it, and I hope that comes through in the final product. I wish I could dedicate more time to it sometimes, but the reality is that the time is limited. But when I do create something, know that I'm trying my best, and I hope you do enjoy it. Next question, what YouTube channels are you subscribed to? I think the best way to answer this one is just to show an image of the channels that I'm currently subscribed to. And it's a variety of animation channels, just overall things that I find either funny or interesting. I like to watch every now and then. So if you're on this list, that means that I'm a fan of your content, and I know that it's tough to push stuff out, so I'm here to encourage you to continue because me as well as the rest of your subscribers appreciate it. Next question, why did you change the name of your channel from Titan Toons to ToonCraft? I don't get asked this question a lot anymore, but I did get asked this quite a bit when I first did this. And the reason is very simple. When we were developing Apex Legends, I knew that this new content was gonna come out and I was excited to create cartoons for it. So rather than changing the name of the channel every time a new game came out or I wanted to cover something else, I just tried to make it something a little bit more inclusive that could mean anything, right? Like ToonCraft. It can be cartoons about pretty much anything, which I think it's actually the description that I have on my channel. I can make cartoons for Apex, or I can make cartoons for Titanfall, or I can make cartoons for another game. I haven't quite decided what the next game would be or when I can mix these up, especially as my time is limited. If you have an idea of what that would be, let me know. Hopefully you guys are open to that idea. Alright, next question. Do you work for Respawn or are you a YouTube animator? What's the deal? I'm so confused. I guess the best answer for this is yes to both. I do make these cartoons that I post on YouTube, and I also work professionally at Respawn, and my area is animation, mostly doing very character specific stuff like character selection or lobby, finishers, skydiving emotes. Not so much gameplay stuff like weapons or abilities, although I have done a little bit of that in the past. I would like to get more into it because I think it's an awesome part of the pipeline. I've been focusing more on very character specific animations. Alright, next, what is your favorite animation in Apex Legends? This one is a little bit tricky because as an animator you get to see your own stuff so many times that you kind of lose sensitivity for it. And it's not until it goes out into the wild and people react to it that you realize, oh yeah, I think I did something kind of cool there. So I mostly like what other animators do. I really like some of the stuff that went into the lobby for Crypto. Joe, one of our animators here, did some really subtle, intricate stuff with this that it's just really well done, and I just think it sells the character so well that I was completely blown away by it, and it's one of my favorite animations in the game, and yet it's very subtle. Now, for me, I think some of the stuff that I like to do is something that has a ton of energy, like the stuff that goes into making for Wraith. Her finishers, I think, are kind of fun, mostly because I get to hand key that more than mocap, and I generally enjoy that a lot more. Anytime that I can hand key my animation is usually a happy place for me. So I like the stuff for Wraith. Everybody has done an amazing job, I would say, so I really enjoy watching what other animators do in the game more than my own stuff. How about this? The animation that is my favorite one in the game, it's actually not out yet, so I'll just leave it at that. Next question, did you work on Jedi Fallen Order? I did not get to work on Jedi. Respawn has separate teams that work on their respective games, and although we update each other on how the game is doing, each team has their own animation, effects, writing, level design, concept, everything, right? So I did not get to work on Jedi, I just got to experience this one purely as a fan, and it was awesome. I had a blast playing through it, and towards the end, I definitely wouldn't have wanted to work on it as I didn't want any spoilers at that point. So yep, this one I just got to experience it as a fan, and I loved it. Alright, next question. What is your recipe for coming up with new ideas? What is your creative process like? Oh boy, this might take a while. I actually do have kind of a quirky process of coming up with some ideas, and it all starts with understanding very well what it is that I need to accomplish, whether it's for the cartoons or for my professional stuff. Once I know what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, I go on a little hunt for some music, and I try to find some fun music that goes well with the mood of the animation that I'm trying to achieve. And once I do this, I download it into my phone and I put the music on repeat really loud, and then I actually go outside with my doggy Oreo that you can see right here. He's a cute little Boston Terrier. So most of my best ideas, I would say, come either early in the morning or late at night, and then I use the rest of the day to execute that idea that I came up with. As I am listening to the music and thinking about what it is that I try to accomplish, and as I go on my little walk with Oreo, I actually start to just open my head into coming up with some creative stuff. And if you haven't tried this before, you really should, because you'll be surprised that if you are in a comfortable place, the ideas will actually start to come to you. So if I'm ever in a place that's like stressful, like a hospital or something, I will never come up with anything. And that is another reason why I think my desk at work, or basically wherever I have to do anything creative, is usually surrounded by a lot of toys or figures that make me feel comfortable and cozy, because that is when I can actually have the best creative ideas and stuff that I can come up with. So as I'm going in this walk with my doggy, once I try to stitch together some ideas that are making sense, then I have to rush home and try to write them down so that I don't forget them. And then, like I said, I go throughout the rest of my day executing on those ideas that I came up with. And it's a little bit of a quirky process, but it's been working for me for years, so hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Next question, where do you see your channel going? I can't imagine you'll be making Apex cartoons forever. That's a really good question, and a very timely question, especially as right now with all this stuff with COPPA, I don't know if you guys have heard all of these new YouTube stipulations that are going to be coming into effect in January. I think they are for a good cause, as in the end they are to protect the children's privacy, but currently I think the regulations and the guidelines that YouTube is proposing are really vague, and it makes the whole situation a little weird and uncomfortable for creators because they don't know how to proceed. And the biggest thing here is that some of my favorite channels could be in jeopardy, like animated channels or game channels. Stuff that I follow could potentially be seen as something that could be at risk, because since it appeals to children, you know, the FTC or YouTube could come after them, and this is gonna scare creators off from making their content, and that would be really regrettable. Now, as far as my channel, I really don't know what's gonna happen. I hope that things are made more clear by the end of the year, otherwise I really don't know what to do. The party could be over, who knows. As far as the content, I think for now I'm gonna stick with either Apex or Titan Toons, but like I mentioned before, if you guys would be open to the idea of having other kinds of games or TV shows or movies that could be parodied, there's stories to be made from a lot of places. So I don't know, if there's something that you think could be a good fit for ToonCraft, let me know. And I hope that you're open for that idea, because sometimes I do get the cravings of doing something completely different from a different game and just see where it goes. So I don't know, let me know what you think about that. Alright, next, what are your biggest pet peeves? I think I have a lot, but I think my biggest one is when I'm working on an animation and it's not quite ready to be shown. I guess I don't like when people are behind me or sneak up behind me and look at what I'm working on, because I don't know, I get the feeling that they might be thinking, ooh, why is this looking like that, or why is it looks kind of crappy or whatever. And it's because it's not in a place that I'm ready to show it, so it just makes it a little bit uncomfortable that since I don't know what that person is thinking, I don't want him to get the wrong impression of what I'm doing. I do like to get feedback on my animations early, but I like to wait until I'm ready to show them because, like I said, I don't know what they might be thinking, and it's just a little bit annoying, but it's really not a big deal. Alright, next question. What are your favorite games? So anybody that's been following the channel will know that Nintendo games are some of my favorite games, and that is because the Super Nintendo was my very first console, so you will find references from Nintendo games all throughout my videos. In addition to that, I do like stuff like Metal Gear, Resident Evil, anything that Naughty Dog makes, The Last of Us, Uncharted, even their old Crash stuff was amazing. I think I'll leave a lot of my favorite games here on the screen so you guys can see. I also love Titanfall 2. I think it was the first-person shooter that I got into, and I was just amazed at the movement mechanics and the smooth gunplay. It was really catchy and just visceral. It felt so good to play. I love Apex Legends, and not just because I work on it, I genuinely do like the game, and I enjoy the Battle Royale genre, and I like the legends, I like the powers, and of course I also like working on it. I do love the Uncharted series. I think Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 4 are some of my favorite games because I'm more of a single player dude. I like stories that are very scripted and, you know, they're like playable movies. I do like that kind of stuff more than multiplayer. Although a game that I spent most of my time in was StarCraft 2. I actually got pretty good at that game. Unfortunately, at some point I had to quit because it was getting just way too rage-inducing with all the cannon rushing and crap. But yeah, those are some of my favorite games. Alright, next question. What software do you use to make your cartoons? I think the best way to answer this one is to leave an image of my workflow and briefly explain what these are. Everything starts with Adobe Animate. It used to be called Flash, now it's Animate. The animation work that I do is done in this software. And then after this step is done, it gets assembled into After Effects. All of the shot creation is done here, so I bring in the animation and the backgrounds and I make it look really nice here in this software. And then I use Audacity for the audio that goes into the cartoons. And then I don't use Maya quite as much. I use it a lot at work, but here for the cartoons not so much. I use it very little. Specifically if there's any camera angles that are tricky, I do use it for that. But for the most part, it's Flash, After Effects, and Audacity. And then after all of this is done, it goes into Premiere, which is what I will use to create a final cut and a final compressed video that will go into YouTube and out into the world. And then after many hours of this, you will get either an Apex tune or a Titan tune. Okay, next question. If you weren't doing animation, what would you be doing? I think the only other thing that I could see myself doing is becoming a professional chef. Try to work in like a fine dining restaurant. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff that could happen in a kitchen, and the dynamics between the chef and the sous chef and the patrons and the beautiful food. I think there's just a lot of really cool appeal there. I would be fascinated to do art on a plate that other people can, you know, enjoy. And if you think about it, it's similar to what I do now. There's a lot of artistry and I serve something that other people can enjoy. But who knows, maybe I would have sucked as a chef and nobody would have liked my food, so I don't know, I guess it was better that things just worked out in animation. Alright, next question. What was the reaction from everyone at Respawn when they saw how much Apex blew up back in February? Did anyone expect this? Well, first of all, thanks for sending in this question. I think it's a really fun one. I think the word that I would use to describe this day was shocking. Now, don't get me wrong, we had been working on Apex diligently for a little while, and as you may remember, it was basically kept in secret, and only very few people outside of the core team knew what we were making. So we had been working on this secret project that we were going to put out, and just like with any other release, I think there was a great sense of excitement, but mixed with nervousness, especially as this was a pretty big secret. So the weekend leading up to this, I do remember that there was a healthy amount of anxiety. It's the regular stuff like, well, what if we put out our game and what if people come and what if they don't like it? What if they're disappointed? What if they stop playing right away? What if they hate it? What if the game crashes? Now, when we actually released it and we started to see the amount of people pouring into the game, it was a pretty surreal moment. We had repurposed the break room downstairs with a whole bunch of monitors, a big TVs, like 6 or 7 or 8 of them, and they were pretty much watching out for how the activity was happening. and the players coming in and seeing if there were any issues or performance issues. And I remember that people were just hanging out down there like if it was a bar where you would go meet your friends, and there was a lot of different kinds of expressions. Some people were shocked, some people were super happy, and I think mostly everybody was puzzled. We would look at each other and be like, is this for real? Is this like, are these numbers real? And we were just shocked at how many people were pouring into the game. And I think I remember at some point there was somebody that was saying, can we double check these numbers to make sure that we're not double counting or something? And no, the reality is that all these people were in fact coming in to play our game, and we were just so humbled to see how many people were willing to give us a chance. To see the numbers go that fast, that high, was just shocking. It was extremely humbling and one of the most surreal experiences I've ever had. And the reality is that who knows if this will ever happen again in my career, but to be able to say that I was there the day that Apex launched, it's something that I can definitely, mark off my bucket list. The entire atmosphere was like Christmas morning. It was surreal, it was exciting, and it was extremely humbling. Alright, next, between Titan Toons and Apex Toons, which one is harder? That's a really easy question. Apex Toons are much harder to animate because they have a lot more detail, especially in the faces. Before in Titan Toons, because all of the characters were wearing a helmet, I could get away with very stylized little blinks here and there. The more fidelity you add to a cartoon or to any project, the more difficult it is going to be to animate. In this case with the Apex Toons, because they have a lot more detail, especially in the face, you can't get away with having them just looking blankly. Even though the cartoon is very stylized, it still has to have a very purposeful movement to it. So yeah, Apex Toons are a lot more difficult to animate. Alright, next, how did you get into animating for Respawn? Did they see your work and come to you, or did you go to them? And I actually think not many people at Respawn actually know the answer to this question, but there's a little story to this. At the time, I was working at Blur Studio. Blur is a place that creates really amazing marketing pieces, promotional stuff, really high-end stuff, and I love working there. And one night before going to bed, not surprisingly, I was browsing YouTube and I came across this random video. I think it was called The History of Titanfall and Respawn, something like that. It was from Game Informer. I clicked on it without thinking much. As I started watching this video, I'll leave pieces of the video here for you guys to watch. As I was watching this, I was just fascinated by the story that these developers were talking about, how they had broken out from Infinity Ward and formed a new studio, and I was just so captivated by their story and by some of the stuff that they were saying here. I just thought to myself, it would be awesome to be part of this team. These guys sound like they know what they're doing. They sound like they're kind of rebellious. I don't know, sort of going against the norm. I came downstairs that very night after watching the video and I applied. I applied to Respawn. And after that, everything went through the regular channels, like I got called back, I got interviewed, I did a test. After that, everything went pretty normal, pretty average. But it was that very first step that got me to apply that was kind of unique, because it all came from this video that I watched randomly on YouTube. And it was the appeal of being part of that team that really drove my appetite towards becoming a developer at Respawn. And here I am, a few years later. I can say that I'm part of the team, and it was just as good as I hope it would be just from that video. And who knows, I'd like to think that maybe the video that I'm making now, or any other video that I've made, maybe it could be inspirational just like this one was for me. Who knows, maybe that's overthinking it, but it could happen. So yeah, that's the story of how that happened. Alright, next. I imagine that these take a lot of time and effort. How do you push through the burnout in order to complete the cartoon? The reality is that everything in animation takes a long time. No matter what medium you're using, any animator will tell you, yeah, animation takes a long time and it's frustrating and it can be kind of an ugly process sometimes. And that is mostly because it just takes forever to create anything. So with these cartoons, plus the limited amount of time that I have, it can be a frustrating process. At the beginning, everything starts smoothly because I'm excited for an idea, and then halfway through, I start to feel it. I start to feel like I am not progressing quickly enough. And then towards the end, I just want to finish it because I'm frustrated at that point and it's been taking a while and I just want to see what people think about it. At the same time, you start to get bombarded with feelings of like, oh my gosh, what if this sucks? What if nobody laughs at this? What if nobody likes it? And then you start thinking, this one is the worst. This one is the worst episode. This one is the worst cartoon I've ever made. And it's not until my wife and my kids, which are my internal quality assurance, it's not until they come in and sit down and watch what I've done, and I can see their reaction. They're laughing at the right places, they are giggling at the right stuff, that I start to feel a little bit better, and I start thinking, okay, maybe this doesn't suck as much. And then it's mostly the excitement that I feel that people are gonna enjoy it that makes me push through to the end. And then when this finally goes out and I can see the reaction of people and read the comments, it's actually extremely rewarding, and it's really the only thing that makes this worth it, because it's a little bit of a frustrating process, I'm not gonna lie, but the payoff is pretty fun because I get to see the reactions and I get to read the comments, and that's always a huge payoff. So I would say it is thanks to my community that I am able to push through the burnout. Okay, a short question. Are you Latino? I am. I am originally from Mexico City. That's why there's a little bit of an accent in my voice. I moved here to the States for college, and then I just did my life here. I got married, and now I have a job and kids. But yeah, I was born and raised in Mexico City. So for my Spanish peeps, muchas gracias por venir aquí al canal. Espero que les sigan gustando las caricaturas. Si me quieren dejar un comentario en español, está bien. Yo los leo todos y los puedo responder en español también. De verdad, gracias por venir y espero que sigan disfrutando del contenido. Alright guys, we're getting to the end. Which characters can you relate with the most, and which ones do you feel closest to? There's one for the cartoons and there's one for Apex. For the cartoons, I think the character that I can relate to the most sometimes is with the Tick. And that is because it reminds me of my days when I used to play StarCraft. I was kind of this trolly online dude because I got really competitive. I got really into that game. I actually climbed up all the way to like Masters League, and I spent way too much time on that game, and towards the end it was getting kind of toxic and kind of trolly because I would, taunt my opponents and stuff, and it got pretty bad at the end, so that I had to quit. I had to quit when my wife said, this is not good for you. You're rage quitting. And yeah, so except the Tick, actually the way that I made him is he kind of sucks at games, and he gets frustrated and explodes, but sometimes I do feel like that guy. So he's actually based on my old days of StarCraft 2. I'm no longer that person. I have rehabilitated since then, and I no longer troll people. As far as Apex, I think the character that I identify with the most is sometimes Wraith, and not in the sense that she's kind of angry and she's kind of dramatic and stuff, and in some ways I am a little bit like that, although I'm not an angry person. I'm super happy most of the time, but more in the sense of like Wraith likes to get in and do something efficiently, get things done, and then get out and move on to the next thing. And I think I'm a little bit like that, or at least I strive to be like that. I like to get in with a plan, execute it quickly and efficiently, and then move on to the next task. So yeah, I think those two. Alright guys, here we are. We finally made it to the last question. What tips would you give to someone just starting in animation? How did you first start, and how long did it take? And I wanted to finish with this one because I wanted to leave you guys with something useful. When it comes to the animation industry, you have to know that this is a very cutthroat field. You have to have sort of a conversation with yourself, kind of like a come to Jesus moment, where you need to ask yourself the very basic question, hey, is this really something that I want to pursue? Is this something that I want to put myself through? Because I'm here to tell you that if you don't absolutely know that this is what you want to do, maybe it's better to do something else. The reason why I say that is because breaking into the industry can be extremely frustrating and just a daunting task, and you need to be okay with the concept of failing. There's a lot of things that go with the recruitment process. There's a great deal of luck, there's a great deal of good timing, and there's a great deal of talent involved. And if you're actively trying to break into the industry and you haven't done so yet, the harsh reality, and I do not say this lightly, is that you might just not be good enough yet. And again, I do not say this lightly. I don't want to come across as a jerk. This is actually something that was said to me many times in the past by my peers, by recruiters, by professionals, by my mother. Not by my mother, but by the other ones, yeah. And you have to be okay with the concept of failing, because when somebody tells you you're just not good enough yet, you're gonna feel like you're the worst artist in the world. And after you cry in the corner, you have to shake all of that and try it again. I would say try to get your demo as trim as possible. Cut all the fat. Get rid of everything that's fluff and just leave your very best work only. For me, I would say it took about maybe a year and a half to land a really cool job. I mean, I did get a job right after college, but it wasn't something super exciting. It wasn't until I moved to California and I started working at PlayStation in Uncharted 4 that I was like, wow, I'm making some progress now. This was a big step for me. And now a few years later, here I am at Respawn working with some of the best developers out there, working in one of the biggest games. And this, I think, is where the payoff comes, because after you have put yourself through all of that frustrating part of the recruitment process and just trying to break into the industry, at least in the very fortunate position that I am right now, which is that anything that I create right now, whether it is for my cartoons or for Respawn, I know that it's going to be released and it's going to be seen by millions of people and it's going to be enjoyed by millions of players. And that is such a huge payoff, because every artist out there wants to get their art looked at. Everybody wants to make stuff for others to enjoy. To know that my stuff is going to be seen by millions of people, of course it made the process worth it. And it's something that I would say it's extremely encouraging. I don't need a pat on the back to tell me that I did a good job. I just need to look at some of the community stuff and see that people are acting out the finishers, or people are acting out the walks, or whatever it is that we put our work into. People are acting them out, which means that they are resonating with the community. And that is such a huge payoff. So I would say, of course, the path was worth it, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating while you're trying to get there. This industry does reward talent and dedication, and your professional attitude and your work ethic goes a long ways. So don't give up. You can land the job that you want, you just have to stick to it. Lastly, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, especially to those 5 or 10 people that actually made it to the end of the video. I hope that you found it insightful, or at the very least somewhat entertaining. As you can see, the screen is now filled with Nessies, and I hope that you feel a tiny bit represented by one of these little guys. Thank you so much for helping me build this community, and I hope that you continue to enjoy the cartoons. And more than anything, I hope that you continue to drop me comments in the comment section, because they are so fun to read. And it does take me a little bit to get through all of them, but I really do try to read them all, so please continue to write them. This was really fun to make, and maybe I'll do another one of these if we ever hit another big landmark. But I guess this is everything for now, so let's see, how do you end these things? Alright, how about this? Until next time, this has been Moy, signing off.